Yes, people, welcome back to the Magpie Channel TV. It's a lovely, sunny summer's day here in the Toon, and the summer is fast approaching, which means one main thing, I mean the weather and all that stuff, behind gardens, the summer transfer window is nearly upon us. And if you are led to believe this article from the Telegraph, it's going to be a big, busy, expensive one for Newcastle United. Oh yes, we can get excited now. We're going to believe Luke Edwards and everyone else that is now running with this piece. Everything has changed. Our shrewd approach to the transfer window, a little 12 million Trippier, a little Nick Pope from Burnley. Not anymore. Not anymore. Shit just got serious, right? Declan Rice is on this article. There's some massive names. There's a 14-man shortlist, and we're going to run through every single one of them for you in this video. And now we can't get excited for the summer. I think, will it be this good? I'm not sure. I'll give my thoughts on it at the end, but it'll be a lot better than I think people are expecting. I think people now are still expecting it to maybe be a bit more astute in terms of who we bring in. I mean, you've got to remember, we still did spend £63 million on Alexander Isak last summer on one player. So with FFP, we're looking like we can spend around £200 million. But then with the TV money that we've made this season, Sky Sports and BT being there every week, pretty much. On top of that, if we get European football, that's the big question here. That's the big factor, because it depends on if we get top four in particular. If we get top four, then you can attract the players, the high-profile players' names that are on this list, and you can also afford to spend the money on those players. But if we finish 6th Europa League or Conference League or whatever, then you might have to look further down the list, McTominay. Do you know what I mean? But we'll get on to all that. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the list and we're going to talk through this article from the Telegraph that came out yesterday. And, you know, everyone's sharing it now. It's all over Facebook. Sport Bible are on it, you know, The Sun, The Chronicle, they're everyone, including myself. So let's have a look at it and we'll talk it through. You get the old Bond spexies on. Newcastle United are set to drop their cautious transfer approach and look to become more aggressive. The Telegraph believe that Eddie Howe will target at least 4 elite signings, plus younger squad players. So the likes of Harrison Ashby, who was signed in the last window from West Ham, the young right back, and he scored and assisted yesterday in Newcastle's under-21s game against Norwich, a 4-3 win, which Ryan Fraser, not so under-21, played in. He also scored. So madness for him, that being in that squad. Obviously, he's leaving in the window. It says the club is monitoring talent both home and abroad, and that we already have an 11-man shortlist of players currently playing in the Premier League. So we're not just looking abroad. And why would we? Look, we've signed Pope from Burnley, we've signed Bain from Brighton. You know, we've been signing players from the Premier League already. So the first one that's mentioned is the main man, James Maddison. James Maddison, obviously very high on the list, #1 target. I've done plenty of videos on Maddison on the channel. Just search James Maddison, the Magpie channel. It'll come up. You'll see my thoughts on there. I've said he is my #1 target this summer. I think it will happen. I think we'll get him for around £50 million, and it'll be huge because he's such a talent, brilliant player, can unlock a defence, something Newcastle need, that creative spark in the middle to take off the pressure of Bruno Guimaraes, to take off the pressure of the wingers and stuff. So Maddison, very high on that list. Other targets reported are to be Brighton and West Ham duo Mitoma and Moise Caicedo. Mitoma, I would absolutely love to sign. He is becoming higher up on my list of wanted players every single week. When you watch him now, he's just unreal. He's playing fantastic week in, week out against the biggest and best sides. Spurs last week, amazing. Liverpool the other week, fantastic. You know, he's a serious baller, Mitoma. But we've took Ashworth from Brighton. We need to take everyone else. Chelsea, I know Chelsea tried to do that. They took Potter, they took else. But we need to get amongst this, because every time Brighton are continually churning out players for 1 million, 2 million, and then they're worth 30, 40, 50 million. Your Caicedos, your Cucurellas, you know, your Basumas. And now, Mitoma this season, Ferguson up front, the other lad that scored the other day against Chelsea that came off the bench. Where are they getting these players from, man? So, Mitoma, I would love to see. I could see it happening. Caicedo, obviously Arsenal tried to sign him in January. Brighton turned it down. Caicedo said himself he wanted the move. Didn't get it. He'll move this summer. It'll be for big money. I'm not sure we would spend that much money on him. And I think he will have a lot of options. Liverpool really want him. Liverpool have pulled out the race now for Jude Bellingham. Liverpool want Caicedo. Arsenal still want him. You know, I think Caicedo will go to one of those clubs. I don't think he'll come to Newcastle, but Mitoma, I could see it. Jared Bowen and Declan Rice. So let's talk about the two West Ham players quickly. Bowen, I'm not asked about Bowen. I know he did well on the weekend, scored. He's had a very quiet season. I think he's a bit hit and miss. I would look elsewhere for Jared Bowen. I would have loved him a year or two ago, but now I'm not overly keen on him. Declan Rice would obviously be amazing, but I think he falls into that Caicedo bracket where he will be about 100, 110, 120 million pounds. He seemed destined to be going to Chelsea. He's a Chelsea boy, supports them. They've got all the money. Them not being in Europe, will that bother Rice that much? I don't think so. I think Rice will end up at Chelsea because they'll just splash the cash again because it's just endless for them somehow. So I think Rice will go to Chelsea. Conor Gallagher from Chelsea, not interested. That's harsh. I'm saying I'm not interested. He would definitely improve us still, and he is a good player. I just haven't seen enough of it. And I'm not sure. Europa League, I'd take Gallagher. I think if we get Champions League, we should be even higher. So I'm not that fussed about Conor Gallagher. Brentford's Ivan Toney. Now, I said this in the watch-along the other week when we beat Brentford and Toney scored and missed the penalty. But Toney scored in that game, and I said, you know, I would love Ivan Toney back in tune. He's unreal. He's a brilliant striker. I'm just not sure how that would work for us in terms of Isak starts, but we need a better second option because Wilson's always injured, so Toney would be perfect. Would Toney or Isak be happy being on the bench though? No, they wouldn't, would they? So would Isak have to go out the left? Would they play a 4-4-2? It's possible, and I would love to see it happen. I think Toney would be right up there with Maddison for me as one of the big signings because we need to take the goal scoring responsibilities away from Isak entirely, where it's not just on him. Bringing in Ivan Toney gives us an option off the bench or to put him up front. And like I said, with European football, Wilson's going to be missing most of the time anyway. He always is. He's always injured. So we need a really strong option up there as well. And Toney brings that physical presence. He's still very good technically. I tell you what, just thinking about it now, Isak and Toney up front, I think they would bounce off each other brilliantly. It would be amazing to watch, and every defence would be shit scared of them. So I'd love to see Toney come in. Price tag though, that would have to be a big signing. I think Brentford would want, it's scary to think because of the English tax and all that. And also, you know, Toney's got that lingering thing around him where he's pleaded guilty to the betting charges. What's his punishment going to be? That's still to be worked out. That will probably judge of what happens to him in the summer, where he ends up. Who else we got? The Arsenal's Kieran Tierney, the left back. Apparently Arteta wants to keep him, but he wants game time so he can make a move. Tierney, good. I'll be happy with that. But fitness is a concern. But I think that move is very likely, to be honest with you, this summer, and I'd take him. This one's an interesting one. It seemed to divide opinion on social media. Manchester City's Calvin Phillips hasn't played at all, barely, for Manchester City, has he? But I would love him, and I think this one could happen. I'm hearing this one could happen because Calvin Phillips may be initially on a loan, so you could get a top-class player on loan, but we've got to get that. We've got to get that obligation to buy in there for me because Man City will, if he has a good season, will still just take him back again and maybe bet him in because he was amazing for Leeds. Look, he got England's Player of the Year as well, so he's a top talent. I'm not sure why he's not playing that much at Man City. Maybe because of the amount of talent they've got and he's not quite fitting the role of the system. He would be perfect for us in that midfield. Bruno, Phillips and Jonah in midfield. Toney and Isak up front. Fucking hell. It's like FIFA career mode this. I'm loving it. And I hope it happens. My goodness, it'd be a class. I'd take Phillips all day long. Then you've got Man U's McTominay. I've done a video on him. Check it out. Harvey Barnes. I also mentioned him in that video. Barnes, I'm thinking this could be very, very true as well and likely to happen. I think he suits what Eddie Howe wants in a player. A grafter, also a goal scorer, and you know, a real team player. And Leicester are looking more and more likely to go down now. I mean, they're bottom three, they're looking hopeless. So why not take Maddison and Barnes? I'd be very happy with Harvey Barnes. I think he's a quality player, and I think just because he's called Barnes, Harvey Barnes, it's not exciting or exotic. But I tell you what, his stats on the pitch, quality player. I'd take him. Let's have a look at the overseas players now then. You've got Borussia Mönchengladbach's Marcus Thuram, who was a free agent. I could definitely see that happening as well. And I'm seeing definitely see happening to a few now that I'm thinking about it. But look at Thuram's on a free. So why wouldn't you? Especially if Alan St. Maximin leaves. Why would you not get Marcus Thuram? You've got to remember, we're playing European football now, as it stands. Please let this happen still. So there's games are going to be twice a week easy, then not taking into account the League Cup, the FA Cup. You know, these games, there's a lot of them. And Thuram would be a quality asset. And you know, he offers a lot going forward. So I'd take him all day long. I think Thuram would be a brilliant option on the wing. And again, it's about trying to improve the squad. It's not just the starting 11 we've got to think about here. It's improving the squad. Would you have Murphy or Thuram? Would you, if Almiron's not in form, we can bring in a Thuram. You know, you've got to start thinking about these things now. We're going to be playing a lot more games. So Thuram, yep. Celta Vigo's Gabri Veiga. Don't know much about him, not going to lie. I haven't had the time to look at what he's like, but whatever. If that comes to fruition, I'll do a video on him. Moussa Diaby. Good old Moussa Diaby. Diaby won't go away. His name won't go away. Last summer, loads of videos on him on the channel. Diaby's amazing, unreal. They wanted £80 million from last year. Leverkusen, so it didn't do it. Will they be more reasonable this year? Will the Frenchman make the move? Possibly. I think he'll want to leave Leverkusen. Will it be Newcastle? I'm 50-50 on that one at the minute, especially if we go for a Barnes or something like that. And if you spend your money elsewhere. If we were going to be serious about a Declan Rice or a Bellingham, or try and be mental and get one of them, or a Tony, who will be very expensive as well, then maybe you'd say, I'll tell you what, we're not going to spend 60-70 million on a winger, but I'll tell you what, if we get a Declan Rice in for 100 million, and you're trying to be here for the next 10 years, England's future captain and all that, do that instead. And that would make sense to me. And then we've got Napoli's duo, Victor Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia. I'm smashing it now. Kvaratskhelia. KK. Would be easier, wouldn't it? But it's not Kevin Keegan. It's that man. And that would be amazing. Those two, again, might fall into the Caicedo, Rice category, Bellingham category of just a step too soon for Newcastle, where the amount of big teams that will be after them, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, you know, I was going to say Chelsea, but they're not even going to get European football, but they've got the money and they're in London and all that shite, so Manchester United could be in there, City. Manchester United for Osimhen would make so much sense if they don't get Harry Kane. It's up to them what they choose to do there, but everyone wants that KK, don't they, so I'd love it. Be very expensive. And like I say, we do get Champions League. You can tempt them, the project and all that. Maybe a year or two behind signing those players though. Maybe. But you never know. You never know. Alright, so that is the list. If you are to believe the Telegraph of Newcastle United's summer transfer spending spree. Tell you what, I'm buzzing for it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it will be a big summer. I think it'll be a lot more hectic, busy, expensive than January and the previous summer window. Because if we get European football, Saudi Arabian owners, PIF out there are not going to be sitting there thinking, I tell you what, we'll just go on and we'll get him for 12 million again. Yeah, he'll do. We'll get a Matty Target on loan. That's not going to happen anymore. The game is going to change. Life will be different, I'm telling you. They will seize this opportunity. If we're Champions League, they're not going to want to fall out of the Champions League. They're not going to fall out of pushing for top four. They're not going to fall out of getting for cup finals. And if we invest, and we sign 4 or 5 of these players on the list, then, you know, we'll be seriously up there next season. I would fancy our chances of maintaining top 4 and potentially a cup. Speaking of 4 or 5 players, before I go, I'll say who I want to sign. You put yours in the comments and we'll sign out of this video. Maddison, I'm taking him. Matoma, I'm taking him. If I'm going to go for an elite one, Rice, I'm having him. Phillips. Actually, no. I'll tell you what. I'll take away Rice. I'll keep Maddison, Matoma. I'll have Phillips on loan with an option to buy because I think he's class. I'll have that. Save the money on Rice, and Rice will probably go somewhere else. Tony, there's 4, and that's going to be a lot of money. And then we'll go for. I wanted to say Diaby, but am I going to be sensible and say Thuram or Barnes? I'm going to go Barnes. I'll be sensible. Go Barnes. So we're going to go Maddison and Barnes from Leicester. We're going to go Matoma as well, another winger. We're going to go Phillips and Tony. Really tempted. I'm wingling between Rice and Phillips. But money-wise, I think that's more sensible. We'll get Phillips on loan. Obligation to buy. There we go. Those are my picks. And if we sign them, my God, I will be ridiculously excited for next season. More so than I already am. It'll be amazing. Unbelievable stuff. So drop yours below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Smash a like on this video. Subscribe to the My Channel TV. And enjoy yourself.